you already made some news off your podcast. You had Carly Lloyd on, and she said some things, and I'm like, okay, that's a nice start, Hope Solo. And what we know about you, because I've been following your career, you're one of the more unfiltered. Let me say, you play by rules, of course, because it's a game, but you also have been very free in your career. You've spoken your mind. You've done some things. Where did that come from?
Oh, well, at one point I was celebrated for being open and honest, in my career with US soccer. It was celebrated. It's a luxury, and I call it a luxury now. It hasn't been a luxury throughout my entire career because it's gotten me in plenty of trouble, including being fired on the 2016 Olympic team. So I would say it's a luxury because I had very strong female role models. I had my grandma, who was one of the first women, leading a church in the state of Washington, in Eastern Washington, which is really incredible because women weren't allowed to lead. They were always secondary. So it's really incredible. My mom was a black belt in karate, and there weren't a lot of black belts, when she was born in the 50s. So I don't know. I think I was naive. I was naive growing up. I thought that we as women always just had an equal state. And I didn't really understand that until I got older. So I think there's a lot of things, I had great women role models, but also I was naive and uneducated about my rights as a woman.
Looking back now that you know what you know, because I always think if I understood the game better, I might have played it differently, but I played it how I played it. So we're going to do what we're going to do. Would you have done anything differently?
No, absolutely not. I don't know what you're referencing, but in 2007, for instance, I got kicked off the team for saying, I was a 3-year starting goalkeeper at that point. I actually got replaced for one of the games in the Olympics, in the World Cup in 2007. It was the World Cup in China, and I got replaced by Brianna Scurry, who is a Black woman. She was one of the best goalkeepers to ever play the game, but she was old and hadn't played for 3 years. I earned my spot. And I think the audacity for the US team was that we're so good that it doesn't matter who plays. It doesn't matter who's in the goal. We want to give Brianna one last ceremony before she retires. And that's really when I spoke up and I said, everybody in the soccer industry understands that this was a dumb decision by the coach. You don't put in a goalkeeper who hasn't played for 3 years just to give her, this ceremonious retirement. We still have to win first. It was all about winning. And so I became the first female athlete to really speak up about, I believe in myself. And I'll state that, I believe in everything that I've done for the team. At that point, it's my first major tournament as a starter, but I believed in myself as a young kid to have the ability to help our team win, and to remove that for the sake of, I don't know, publicity or the sake of the
nostalgia,
a fairy tale story. Yeah, the Cinderella story was bullshit because we still have to win. We still have to win. And so that was really the first time in 2007 where people labeled me outspoken. Really, I think I was emotional and honest. So outspoken has stuck with me ever since.
And you weren't wrong. So there's that. I Hope Solo is here. Y'all can check her out on Stitcher, on SiriusXM, Pandora. We have her. She's part of our team now. So we're going to not just support her, but you don't even need to do the rounds because you're already somebody that people want to listen to because you're going to say the things that need to be said. You're going to say the things that you feel.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Our first episode dropped today. I had my good friend and former teammate Carly Lloyd on the episode, and she did fantastic, amazing, spoke honesty, spoke truth. And that's really hard to do. And we've had a lot of hate, I don't really care about social media hate. I think it's a bunch of just people have nothing better to do but than to troll people. But if you really hate my episode, then don't sign up for it. But if you want to hear the truth, then listen to the fucking truth. Listen to the truth, because I lived this life for 20 years. Carly Lloyd, the best player to ever play for the US women's team, is telling you a story and people don't want to listen. And why don't they want to listen? Because they want it to be, the girl next door story. They want it to be, oh, we like to just play for America, Team USA. Trust me, I played for Team USA too, and I take great pride in that. But there are issues that need to be discussed. And I think a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. A lot of people do. And I'm very, very proud to have Carly Lloyd as my first guest, but it doesn't come easy. I think speaking the truth comes with a lot of, I'm sure you know.
Well,
for sure. So
we live in a nation that wants to, paint this rosy picture. And I think the beauty of being a human being is that we're flawed. And it's only the people that lean into their flaws with the attempt to fix it that become great, I believe. So as a nation, we want to erase all of the history that makes people feel bad about themselves instead of leaning into, we're a complicated nation where we had the father of this great nation also owned 300 plus people and was, an enslaver that was good with enslaving, like to do that. We need to be able to have both of those. Yes, he was a great leader. At the same time, he had this evil history. Thomas Jefferson, same thing. He was a rapist who, produced children with a person that he had in bondage, but he was also a great thinker and a Renaissance man. All two things can be true. And unless we're able to embrace those things about ourselves and thus the nation, we're not going to mature into the greatness that we think we already are.
Man, amen, Karen, because it is about educating yourself and being more mature and growing, and with Carly, I think it was really difficult to do because she was the only player who didn't kneel during the Olympics. And I talked to her about it. We had a lot of private conversations about it.
And for people who don't know that, taking a knee, Megan Rapinoe and all was in solidarity with, what Colin Kaepernick had started, I think. And she did not kneel. And Black Lives Matter. And all. So talk about why she did not.
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I had a lot of conversations, but what I know is she kneeled quite a bit until her final game in the Olympics. She just wanted to stand with her heart, her hand over her heart with pride, for what she's done for 20 years, to stand for it was her last national anthem on the biggest stage of her life. Like, she just wanted that moment, and that's okay. Everybody calls her narcissistic. They call me narcissistic. Who cares if we're narcissistic? Because if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to, right? Like, who's going to take care of you if you don't take care of yourself? So I feel bad for everybody out there who calls Carly a narcissist, because she actually is very, she plans things out. She's very thought-provoking. She thinks everything through. And it was her last Olympic Games where she didn't kneel. Now people are calling her a fucking racist. What is that, man? She's loving, she's a leader. She served our country for 20 years, and she kneeled every other game. But just one game, her final game, her last major tournament in the Olympics, she said, you know what, I just want to stand for the national anthem. And now, it's just the politics in sports. I'm married to a Black man. I never kneeled. It just started. The Colin Kaepernick era and kneeling happened right at the end of my career. And I told my teammates that I wasn't going to kneel for a lot of reasons. We have faced injustice when it comes to police officers. If there's anyone who's been through it, it's been my husband and I. We've been through it. But that doesn't mean that we all have to think alike and we all have to do the exact same things. And it makes me sad because now Carly is labeled as anti-LGBTQ, she's labeled as a racist. It's a bunch of bullshit right now, what people are doing. And I think it's people on the internet. I think it's trolls. I think it's small-minded people. And like I said, you have to take care of yourself first. You have to understand why you're doing certain things. And for Carly, she's very thought-provoking and she knows what she's doing. So it makes me sad, man. I want to make the world better. I want to educate the world. I want to talk about these things. I want to have an open discussion about these topics because it's not black and white.
It's not. Hope Solo Speaks is the name of the podcast that is already making waves. And I think because we're in this echo chamber and social media is what it is, it doesn't leave a lot of space for nuance. We're mostly nuanced. People are mostly nuanced. We have two things can be true, and we have a hard time sussing that out. I don't get caught up in partisan politics because what does that even mean? What does it mean to be a Republican or a Democrat? I don't think people can even identify that. And I think most Americans can't tell you what it means to be white. Most Americans cannot. I can tell you what it means to be Black. It's a juxtaposition. But if I ask somebody, what does it mean to be white? They can't answer. They'll go to, well, I'm Italian, I'm Irish. Okay, I understand. Those are cultures. What does it mean to be white? They can't answer that. So then why is that a thing that drives so much of
I'll tell you what
everything?
It means to be white, it means privileged. Sorry, I mean, man, my family was poor too, but I still had white girl privilege, and I did.
But even that is not like a culture. What's the food of white? What's the you know what I'm saying? What's white people food? What is what, you know what I'm saying? Music. It's not a thing. It's a made up construct that we bought into that, yes, that gives certain people privilege and access and other people not. So let's dismantle it and start dealing with individuals and human beings. Can we do that? Probably not, because we're not mature enough to, but let's talk about you. You have done a lot. You've been at the forefront, as I mentioned, very outspoken. Recently, the U.S. women's soccer players have agreed to a settlement because you deserve equal pay. Nobody was watching the men. I feel the same way about tennis. Nobody's watching them. So there should be not even equal pay. You probably should get paid more because you have more of the eyeballs of the world's hearts and minds, et cetera, that you had to fight that hard. You didn't necessarily play in an era. So I think about you like, Oscar Robertson, who one of the greatest basketball players of all time, he's not getting $100 million. He didn't get $100 million during his career. Do you lament not being on the stage now when now pay is almost going to be equal and the settlement? And are you involved in that, Hope?
Yeah, I mean, I started it. So yes, I'm involved in it.
Come on.
There would be no settlement without me bringing on our Rich Nichols, without me bringing on a new attorney. We had the same Players Association rep for, I think it was there for 14 years. 14 years, we had this old white man who just wanted to be in cahoots with US Soccer. So all the negotiation was like, oh, don't let the women get too mad. They shouldn't fight for too much more. And I remember we actually went on strike and we told our attorney, John Lingle, that we were going to go on strike. And we voted. Like, that was a huge deal, the fact that the majority voted to go on strike. And John Lingle actually told us, no, I don't think that's a good idea. So we tried to stand up for our rights 10 years ago. And it wasn't really until we replaced John Lingle and we brought in a new attorney by the name of Rich Nichols. And I feel, and I said this on my podcast, I feel embarrassed by the fact that I didn't know my rights as a woman. The Equal Pay Act, Title VII, these laws have been in place for 60 years, 60 goddamn years. And I didn't know that I had a right to fight for them. None of us did until we brought in the new counsel, Rich Nichols. And Rich Nichols, he's not easy to get along with. He's an, outspoken Black man. And so when you have this counsel who's representing a bunch of white women who this Black man who is going to do everything he can to teach us about our rights, US Soccer said, you know what? He's not agreeable. So therefore, if you want to talk about negotiations, get rid of him, and then we can move forward in our contracts. They got rid of Rich Nichols. They got rid of him. And the current team signed a less than equal contract because that's exactly what the Federation wanted to do. They removed the people who were in positions of strength and they went on to do exactly what the Federation wanted to do. And this law has been in place, like I said, for 60 years. And a lot of our young children don't even know about it. It's not taught in the school curriculums. I didn't know about it until I was 30 years old. And here we are fighting. We're still fighting. So yes, there was a $24 million settlement. Do I think it was good enough? No, because there's a lot of former players who will never benefit from it. One. And two, it's based off of contingencies and conditions. There's 3 conditions that have to be met before there's equal pay. So let's not call it a settlement because there's 3 conditions that haven't even been agreed upon yet.
Mm.
So for me, it's a faux settlement. It's all for the cameras. It's all for the media.